Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and I'm outside with my guitar, as you can see. We've all heard the expression, three chords and the truth. Well, three chords isn't the thing that makes it the truth, and that's what I want to look at today. So I think this discussion can just take place with the guitar to demonstrate, because so many folks just kind of play guitar and no music around that feeling of strumming a few chords and singing, enjoying old rock songs, enjoying popular songs, and there's dozens of popular songs that use three or four chords. And those three or four chords are the foundation for the song. Great melodies, great lyrics, and harmonies which seem simple. Well, I have a very talented 7-year-old piano student who can sing along with anything. And so I played her these three chords the other day. D minor, F, G. And she sang a beautiful melody, and maybe I'll be able to play it for you. If I can, I'll insert it here.
Oh, she said that I was amazed. Oh, she said that I was amazed. I saw your love.
Well, I'm not saying that I tricked her, but I picked three chords that had an ambiguous relationship to each other. Now, why do chords have relationships to each other? It all comes from scales. Every major scale, and we're trained into hearing major scales just by all the music we listen to, follows a simple whole and half step pattern. Whole, whole, half. I just made it to the fourth step of the scale. Whole, now I made it to the fifth step of the scale. Whole, whole, and then a half step home again. The location of the half steps is very important. And what that means is when we're playing the triads that live on each step of those scales, we get a very specific set of triads that have quality. The chord on the first step of the scale, you probably know this already, is major. I'm playing in C here. The chord on the second step of the scale is minor, 2. Third step, minor again. Fourth step is major. Fifth step, also major. Sixth step is minor. And then that beautiful sound that we love so much, that seventh, and it resolves home again. What that means is any two chords tend to get heard by us as being part of a scale. And three chords, well, our brain goes into overdrive and says, what scale do those three chords live in? And that all happens unconsciously. And unconsciously is good to know about, because your listener, if you're a composer or a songwriter, your listener is doing that work as well. And what that means is you can play around with the scale expectation. Well, let's look at some really common examples. Probably the single most important example of the three chord world are the three chords that are major in the major scale. The chord that's on 1, 4, and 5. In contemporary music, the minor triads play a really important role as well. And so if I play something like A minor, F, G, do you hear the C chord floating around in space? You probably do. If I play C, sounds like a resolution or maybe a place to go for a chorus chord. Well, that's super useful for us. The relationship of those chords has been set up by our expectations based on the scale, the idea of where scales live. We can play with the expectations about how triads live in major scales and create kind of some unusual effects. For instance, let's take a chord cycle that goes D minor, E minor. Ooh, what's it going to be? That chord progression has a D, an F, and an A. That's 3 notes from a scale. It also has an E, a G, and a B. That's another 3 notes from a scale. That's 6 tones. You've heard me talk about hexachords before here, maybe, if you've watched any other videos. And a hexachord has a wonderful quality. It is missing a tone from the regular scale. And in this case, what I didn't say was C. Well, a C natural in your melody will sound one way, and a C sharp in your melody will sound another. What chord has either a C natural or a C sharp? A. Here's our E minor. Here's our D minor. Here's our A minor. Suddenly it makes sense to your ear, doesn't it? There's a kind of a reality check to it. E minor, D minor, and A minor are all in the C major scale. The 3 chord, E minor. The 2 chord, D minor. The 6 chord, A minor. Let's take the A chord and turn it into a major chord. What happened? C became C sharp, or will in a moment. Here we go, E minor. It's bright, right? What scale has all of those notes? D, E, F, G, A, B, C sharp. The ascending melodic minor. Which is a kind of a strange, it's not a pop song scale, right? Chord relationships are all about where they live in this imaginary major scale. That imaginary major scale is part of the world of the listener. It's an unconscious world, but it's a really powerful one. We could go on and on about this. Any 2 major chords right next to each other will sound like the 4 and 5. Do you hear the E chord? It's sort of living there in your imagination, isn't it? It's a powerful effect. A major chord and a minor chord a half step below it will sound like the 4 chord and the minor 3 chord. Here's our example. C major, B minor. Okay, so it sounds like 4, 3, 2, A minor, 1, G. Really very strong expectation from just hearing 2 chords next to each other. The listener can get tricked, fooled, led down the garden path by your careful choice of major and minor sonorities within triads and how they're placed next to each other. I'm fascinated by these types of chord progressions which suggest a couple of different pathways. And those pathways are almost always really interesting directions to go in when writing new and interesting melodies. Well, it's probably enough for now. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.